Dawn never really comes in Pokrovsk anymore. Smoke from constant strikes hangs low over the city, turning morning light into a dull gray wash over broken rooftops and cratered streets. For weeks, Russian reports have repeated the same line. Pokrovsk is almost encircled. The fall is inevitable. On the ground, the picture is very different. Ukrainian commanders know they are outnumbered. Russian forces have massed tens of thousands of troops and shifted artillery, glide bombs, and armor toward this single sector. But they are running into something Moscow did not expect. A city turned into a layered drone kill zone, built deliberately to bleed any force that tries to come closer. The change begins quietly, with a visit. In early November, President Volodymyr Zelensky travels to the Pokrovsk front twice in quick succession. Official photos show handshakes, briefings, a standard morale tour. Behind the cameras, something more specific is happening. Zelensky and Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky are not just checking on the line. They are assembling a team. At a hardened base near the southern approaches to Pokrovsk, one unit receives most of the president's attention: the Birds of Madyar. Originally a volunteer drone group that made its name in the meat grinder of Bakhmut, the unit has since grown into a full brigade specializing in drone warfare, electronic intelligence, and deep reconnaissance. They held parts of Bakhmut for over 100 days, then withdrew only on orders, leaving behind streets littered with destroyed Russian vehicles and infantry. Now, that experience is being imported to Pokrovsk. Zelensky's makeshift headquarters inside the Madyar base becomes a coordination hub. Representatives from several of Ukraine's most capable formations rotate through. Elements of the 25th Airborne, 7th Rapid Response, the 1st Azov Corps, and other elite drone detachments. They lay out maps, show strike footage, and describe where Russian pressure is building and how the enemy is trying to get inside the city. The Russian approach is clear. No massive armored columns punching down highways, no grand mechanized assault. Instead, small infiltration groups, sometimes just 2 or 3 men, sometimes a single soldier, slip through shattered tree lines, ditches, and ruins. They avoid obvious routes, crossing fields at night, moving between destroyed vehicles and bombed-out houses, trying to establish footholds inside Pokrovsk itself. It's a low-signature, manpower-heavy strategy. In Russian calculations, 1 or 2 soldiers creeping into a ruin are less likely to attract a drone strike than a full squad in formation. The hope is simple. If enough of these small elements get in and dig themselves into basements, garages, and rubble, Ukraine will wake up one morning to find that its defensive grid has been hollowed out from within. Zelensky and Syrsky listen, take notes, ask for exact needs: batteries, optics, munitions, spare airframes, communication gear. Then they issue a directive that leaves little room for interpretation. Finish off the Russians in and around Pokrovsk. What follows is not a symbolic reinforcement. It is a systematic redesign of how the city is defended. The southern perimeter becomes the Madyar birds' hunting ground. Their task: turn everything south of Pokrovsk into a place where Russian infantry cannot move without being seen, tracked, and destroyed. Their tools are familiar: FPV drones with explosive warheads, small reconnaissance quadcopters, loitering munitions, but the way they are used is meticulous and ruthless. Patrol patterns are layered in altitude and time. High drones map the broader movement corridors: tree lines, low ground, shell craters big enough to hide a man. Mid-level platforms watch likely approach routes. FPV teams sit on alert, ready to launch within seconds when a target is confirmed. Every piece of strike footage is catalogued and cross-referenced with new reconnaissance, building a living map of Russian habits and mistakes. Russian infiltrators quickly learn that small does not mean invisible. A lone soldier moving through woodland toward the city, previously a low-priority target, is now treated as a legitimate threat. The birds track him as he picks his way between rusted vehicle hulks and destroyed equipment. When he ducks into the burned-out carcass of an armored vehicle, believing he's found cover, the drones do not lose him. They mark him. Then the process begins. First drone in, test the position. Confirm the exact hiding place. Second and third, adjust for angle, obstacles, and debris. One after another, FPV drones strike the ruin, chipping away at cover, forcing the soldier deeper into what he thinks is a safe pocket. Eventually, one flight path threads perfectly through twisted metal and shattered armor. The feed cuts out in a white flash. The operator logs the target as eliminated and moves on. This cycle repeats across the southern approaches. Small Russian detachments are located, fixed in place, and then ground down by repeated drone strikes. It does not matter if they reach rubble, garages, bunkers, or shell holes. Once tagged, they are not left alone. By late October, Ukrainian sources claim the Madyar birds alone have killed thousands of Russian soldiers in and around Pokrovsk using drones. Numbers impossible to independently verify in real time, but consistent with a constant stream of strike footage and wrecked equipment cataloged from the area. More important than the precise figures is the operational effect. Southern Pokrovsk stops being a gray zone and becomes, in practical terms, a kill zone. For Russian commanders looking at the map, the implications are obvious. Every attempt to reinforce forces already infiltrated into the city from the south requires crossing a belt of airspace where Ukrainian drones are effectively permanent residents. Every motorcycle, quad bike, or small vehicle that tries to rush supplies or personnel forward risks being spotted, tracked, and destroyed. Pokrovsk has not been saved. It is still under relentless attack from artillery, glide bombs, and constant pressure. But step by step, through cold, methodical drone warfare, Ukraine is turning the battle for the city into something else entirely. A place where every meter gained can cost a life, and sometimes an entire unit. Inside Pokrovsk, the fight shifts from lines on a map to blocks, courtyards, and stairwells. Military intelligence, HUR, inserts small FPV hunter teams into the city, 4 to 6 operators per cell, each with a backpack of drones, batteries, and warheads. They work from basements, half-collapsed shops, abandoned apartments, always within sprinting distance of a new hide. Recon quadcopters orbit above roof level, marking every movement. A Russian pair crossing an alley, a machine gun team dragging ammo cases, a stretcher detail hauling out wounded. Once contact is confirmed, the city itself becomes the weapon. Russian troops use the same ruins for cover, garage rows, courtyards, half-demolished houses, but every predictable shelter is pre-registered in Ukrainian tablets. FPV feeds show soldiers slipping into familiar gaps. Strike operators already have approach vectors practiced. First drone strips away the obvious cover. Second and third chase survivors into stairwells, entryways, and yard corners. Even if they escape the first blast, they inherit a permanent mark. Their position, route, and timing are logged for artillery, mortars, or the next drone wave. Russia tries to adapt. More electronic warfare, more smoke, more armored vehicles pushing up with infantry clinging to the hulls. On one southern access road, a mixed column of BMPs and trucks attempts a fast dash into the urban edge. Ukrainian operators let it close, then hit the lead and tail vehicles with paired FPVs, trapping the rest in a burning, blocked corridor. Indirect fire finishes what the drones started. By early winter, Pokrovsk is no longer just contested. It is a calibrated attrition zone. Russian units still edge forward in some sectors, meters, sometimes a single ruined house, but company-size elements arrive at the line of contact already cut down to platoons. The city may yet fall, but Ukraine has turned its approaches into a lesson written in wrecked armor and drone footage. Pokrovsk will not be taken cheaply.